going to start with some vocabulary. What's a proper fraction? A proper fraction is a fraction where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So here are some examples: 3/5, 1/2, 5/8. The numerator is smaller, and each of these have a value less than 1. For instance, 3/5, if you took a pie and broke it up into 5 pieces and shaded 3 of the pieces, you could see it's less than a whole pie. All right, what's an improper fraction? It's just the opposite. It's a fraction where the numerator is not smaller than the denominator. So that means either the numerator is bigger or it can be the same. So here are some examples of improper fractions: 5/3, 7/2, 4/4. Notice that the numerator and denominator can be exactly the same number. Proper fractions have a value greater than or equal to 1. All right, now remember when we first start off with fractions, 5/3, there's two ways we could think about fractions. One is how many parts out of the whole. So the numerator is how many parts, the denominator says how many parts make up a whole. So let's do it that way. If 3 parts make up a whole, then let's say I'm making up a pie into 3 parts, and I want 5 parts shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I can see what I really have here is 1 whole pie from this pie. That's where all 3 parts are shaded. And then I've got 2 out of the 3 parts. 2 out of 3 parts shaded. So this is 2/3. So what I have is 1 and 2/3. 1 plus 2/3. Now the way we write a whole number added to a fraction, usually it's going to be a proper fraction, is you just put the numbers together and read it as 1 and 2/3 instead of 1 plus 2/3. So the way we say this is 1 and 2/3. 5/3 is the improper fraction where the numerator happens to be bigger than the denominator, and written in this way it's called a mixed number because you're mixing a whole number with a fraction. So 5/3 is the improper fraction, and 1 and 2/3 is the mixed number. So that's an example how to change an improper fraction to a mixed number. I could just draw a picture, right? You can look at the denominator. That tells you how many parts make up a whole. Then you shade however many of the numerator is. So notice you might have to make a lot of pies to do that. All right. Now, the other way, remember, to think about fractions is you could just take the numerator and divide it by the denominator. That's another definition for a fraction. 5 divided by 3. Now what would that look like? Well, I'd go 3 into 5 is 1, and that's 3. You subtract, and then I have a remainder of 2. So this is the way you would normally write this before you ever learned anything about fractions. But what we want to do is be a little bit more precise here. If we have a remainder of 2, that means we have 2 parts out of 3 still. So here's how I write my answer. I do 5 divided by 3. I write the whole number part down, and then the remainder goes in the numerator, and I write the same denominator. So I could either draw a picture for 5/3 to get 1 and 2/3, or 5/3, 5/3 means 5 divided by 3, which is 1, and then I put the remainder over what I would divide it by, which was the 3. Okay, so in both the improper fraction and the mixed number, the denominator stays the same. Anytime you have an improper fraction, it can be written as a whole number or as a mixed number. So let's say you had 15/3. Remember, that's just 15 divided by 3. So the answer is 5. So I wrote this improper fraction as a whole number. So if when you divide, the numerator divided by the denominator and there's no remainder, you'll end up with just a whole number. And of course, you could have also done this with a picture. You could have said, well, I've got to shade 15 thirds. So I'd have to break pies into thirds, right? Until I could shade 15 pieces. And if I shaded all of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I end up with 5 whole pies. Another way to see why 15 over 3 is 5 in terms of fractions and what they mean. How about if I were asked to change 5 halves to a mixed number? If we want to think it in terms of division, and remember you don't have to write this down, 5 divided by 2, but I'm just reminding you, well, if you do 5 divided by 2, how many times does 2 go into 5? Twice. And the remainder is 1. Now if you need to get out and do your division using a long division, that's no problem. You can do that. So the remainder is 1, and then whatever you were dividing by, which means whatever was ever in the denominator in the first place, stays in the denominator. So that's 2.5. And again, this works with a picture as well. What you're saying is you're going to have 2 parts to a whole, right? 2 pieces make up a whole, and if I were going to shade 5 of those parts, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. You can see that I've got 2 whole parts, and here is 1/2. Now remember, you read this 2.5, and it does not mean 2 times 1/2, it means 2 plus 1/2. We just omit writing the plus sign between the whole number and the fraction. Here are 2 for you to try. Here's some improper fractions. Write those either as whole numbers or mixed numbers. Put the video on pause. Okay, let's do it. 25 divided by 7. Well, 7 goes into 25 3 times, right? Because if you went over here and needed to do this, that's okay. It goes in 3 times. And then I got a remainder of 4. The remainder is what goes in the numerator, and the denominator stays the same. So there's our answer, 3 4/7. And you could do this with a picture if you'd like. And 9/9, oh, that's 9 divided by 9. That's 1. Hopefully you didn't have any trouble with either of those. Next, how do you change a mixed number to an improper fraction? So let's say you were given 2 1/3. How am I going to write that as just an improper fraction? Well, it's going to be the same denominator, okay? But let's look at the picture here. I want 2 1/3. All right, so I'm going to have 2 whole pies, right? And 1/3 of the pie shaded. So what we want to do is take all these pies and put them into thirds. So because we know this is 2 here, and let's see, I know I'm shading all of this, right? And then I also am only shading 1 piece over here. That's my 1/3. Okay, so then how many thirds did I end up shading? I'll count them. 1, 2, 3 for that one pie, and then 3 more for the other pie. 6. That was 6 thirds so far, plus this extra piece. You know an easy way to get that 6? It's pretty cool. You know there's 3 thirds, right? Since the denominator is 3 pieces for each of the whole pies. So 3 for the first pie, 3 for the second, 3 times 2. Take the denominator times 2. That's 6 so far, plus the extra piece here in the other that's shaded in the third pie. So 3 times 2 plus 1 is 7 thirds. So you can look at the picture. The easy way to get it is you go the denominator, 3 times 2, and add 1. That'll be the new numerator. So 2 1/3 is 7 thirds. All right, let's write 5 3/4 as an improper fraction. All right, the easy way is, we know it's going to end up with 4 in the denominator. We need the numerator. So we multiply the 4 times the 5, okay, 4 times 5, and we're going to add the numerator. So what's that going to be? 20 plus 3. So this is 23/4. So that's the easy way to get the answer. If If you forget that, remember you could draw a little picture. You've got 5 whole parts and then 3/4, right? So I'm shading 3/4 here. But I'm shading all of these, right? The whole thing is going to be shaded, but I want to see how many fourths in there, right? Can you count them up? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You'd shade 20 of those fourths plus 3 more. So you're going to have 23 if you counted them up. But the easy way, again, you've got 4 in each pie and you've got 5 pies. So you know you really are just going to do 4 times 5 plus the 3 that are over there to get 23. And that's how to change a mixed number to an improper fraction.